say, but you can't find the words. It's a perfect world. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Tell me how you want it to be, and what do you see? Do you believe that you'll never fade? Tell me how you want it to be. Was it something you've seen that made you believe that you'll never fade? In your perfect world, you're too perfect world. You're too perfect world. Tell me how you want it to be, and what do you see? Do you believe that you'll never fade? Tell me how you want it to be. Was it something you've seen that made you believe that you'll never fade? In your perfect world, you're too perfect world. You're too perfect world. You're too perfect.
Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Rock Pile Report podcast. I'm your host, Bill, season ticket holder Drew Gear. That's my producer, Chris Kruger. And oh my God, are you not entertained? This is like we just watched the movie Gladiator in real life. Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills just waltzed out in the middle of the Coliseum where everyone doubted. No one believed. Thank you, sir. A fresh made cocktail. And yet there it was for everyone to see. The entire football watching world got to watch the Buffalo Bills handle business on national television. Chris, what a day, what a story from top to bottom. What a time to be alive and what a time to be a Bills fan.
Dude, I don't know what we do. We go collar up.
Oh my God.
We go collar up, or we can go keep it like, I think collar down goes, hey, I've got to use Pontiac. You interested?
No. The thing is, I have a Sunfire. It might look from a distance like a sports car, but it's not. It's a Sunfire. Hey, that might catch you somewhere, though, in Tonawanda. Guys, what a time to be alive. We are here to recap the Buffalo Bills divisional round victory over the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, what? Oh, God. Here we go, baby.
See, I had to run it back last week because we did the wild card recap. I wore a polo, 2 buttons. Superstition leads the way. I got to go back to it. We went full black, like almost like I'm Kenny Powers without the mullet.
Wait,
and
Kenny Powers, you do know that he stole that from Johnny Cash. I do love the $sign. We're going to start calling you Johnny Cash. The $sign necklace.
Yes.
The man in black. Although your hair, he would have shot you. He would have shot you like that man in Reno with your hair done like that.
Most likely.
Guys, first of all, I got to say, for everybody who came out to the tailgate, stopped by to say hi this weekend, I know how much you guys love tailgate discourse. I'll tell you this. it was a gorgeous day by comparison to what we thought we were going to get and what we prepared for, wasn't it, Chris?
Yeah.
We had legitimate heat solutions to survive up to negative temperatures, and it turns out it was like 20 degrees all day long. It was the best day. Chris, listener Chris, who showed up.
Yes.
Came,
Long Island.
Hung out from Long Island. Godspeed to you. Ken McCusick stopped by and hung out. We actually got to have dinner with him and his wife this weekend. Like, it was just the best weekend of football weather, football people. It was an amazing and unforgettable send-off. Bob coming in hot, being there, one of the first people there to the lot with us, helping set up. It was a great send-off to the stadium. I think it was a great send-off on a year when, we'll get into this, but a year when you couldn't have asked for any better at home from this Buffalo Bills franchise. And it was the best day of football from a crowd perspective, from a fan perspective, from a tailgate perspective. And I bet you I'm not the only one who can say that. Joe Miller, who may or may not show up in the comments at some point tonight. Joe Miller stopped by the tailgate, even though he was doing live spots on another podcast over in the Game Day hospitality lot. Still found time to come over and say hi. Yeah, Joe Green from Big Bear Barbecue over there in Depew, New York, which if you're not shopping there, you're out of your mind if you live in the area. It's they've got everything. He showed up.
He didn't bring his shotgun shells, though.
He did not make the shotgun shells.
Incredible.
But if you want to learn how to make them, he will teach you at his shop how to make them. I mean, it's incredible. It was the best send-off we could have given the 2024-2025 Buffalo Bills season. Huge shout-out, Chris. Raise a glass to everybody who showed up, broke bread with us to celebrate it. Cheers.
Yep. Cheers.
What do we got here?
I don't know the syrup because there's syrup in the...
You just have unmarked syrups?
Yeah, unmarked syrup in the refrigerator out here. But it has molasses, bitters, and Peerless bourbon, which you can either get Peerless for $40 or it's $80. There's no middle ground. Premier usually has it on sale for $40.
Guys, let's just kick this horse. Divisional round recap. The Buffalo Bills 27, the Ravens 25. I've got your stats of the game right here. Lamar Jackson, 18 of 25, 254, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, 2 sacks, a fumble, and a 114 passer rating. Josh Allen, 16 of 22, 127, no tutties, no interceptions, 1 sack, and an 86 passer rating. Yardage disparity. The Baltimore Ravens had 416 yards of total offense, and the Buffalo Bills only had 273. Running back Derrick Henry, 2.6 yards per carry in the first half. Wide receiver Khalil Shakir, 6 of 7 for 67 yards. No other wide receiver had more than 16 yards receiving. He led all wide receivers in snaps, which is odd for a game where they were run heavy. You'd think like Khalil Shakir should be the odd man out in a run-heavy game plan. Nah. The Bills' defensive line, 15 tackles, 10 pressures, 2 sacks, 9 solo run stops, and 1 fumble recovery. Linebacker Matt Milano, 86% snap count, 5 pressures, 3 quarterback hits, 2 hurries, 2 solo run stops, no targets in the passing game. Chris, lightning round. I'm going to name a number. You tell me what I'm talking about. The number 5. 5.
It's how many cars I've sold this month.
It's the number of kick returns by the Baltimore Ravens. A gross outlier, as we'll discuss. 3. Chris, what's the number 3?
The number of cocktails you had on Sunday.
No, I had far more than that. Total Ravens turnovers. 2 for Lamar Jackson, tied with Mark Andrews. Right? Like 3 total Ravens turnovers. Didn't they just combine to fuck that whole game up?
Yeah.
4 Ravens turnovers, wasn't it?
I think
3
it was
fumbles?
3. The fumble recovered by Bernard, the bad route by the receiver, and then the Lamar fumble.
And you
I
could
think
debate,
it was 3.
and you could debate who's to blame more, as we will debate this. And the number 10, Chris.
I'm out.
the number of home victories this season for the Buffalo Bills, tying 1990, a year that they went to the Super Bowl.
For the first time.
Being in that stadium on Sunday was something special, guys. Chris, that's the most sober I've ever been leaving a tailgate. I took one beer for the walk. I wanted to remember every single second of this. And Chris, if you don't remember, I have Seagram's. So if you want to go grab that for me.
Yeah, that's right.
Folks, I didn't think Fitzpatrick had it in him. And then there was a moment of hope when there's a lot of things going on in there, right? Like there's a lot of things that happened over the course of that game, especially when they lined up to kick it off. For those of you who couldn't be there, let me paint you a picture. First of all, Bruce Buffer comes out and they do a Bruce Buffer UFC style intro to the game, and they play it in the stadium, and it's wild. And the place is going nuts because he's telling the tale of the tape, and it's obviously a Pro Bills promo. It's like WWF stuff, but I don't give a shit. I was fired up, right? You can go watch it at BuffaloBills.com. It was awesome. Then out of nowhere, just as the Ravens players are about to take the field, the Jumbotron comes alive, and they go, it's a picture of Jerry Coleman. And all of the transcript of his Buffalo slander, city of losers, they've never won anything, blah, blah, blah. And they cut to a Steve Tasker promo. It's Steve Tasker with a cigar with his flat cap going, hey, city of losers, huh? Yeah, we'll see about that. Why don't you guys let them know what we think? And then the Ravens head to take the field. Chris, have you heard anyone get booed that loudly before inside the Bills Stadium?
No, that was the most intense game that I've ever been a part of. I mean, I was on either standing or on the edge of my seat the entire game. The crowd was
From Jump Street.
It was one of the
Ravens.
best games I've ever been to.
Booing the Ravens was one of the most vocal things I've heard from that crowd in a long time. Boo! Full-throated. And they're just taking the field. They're like, hey, what? It's almost like that 50 Cent meme. Fuck me. What did I do? You're like, nah, you'll pay for Jerry Coleman's sins. Chris, I never left my seat. Never. I didn't go to get water. I never took a piss. I was glued from the time the game started. They kicked it off, and I sat there until the clock hit 0. I will say I owe one of these because when Ryan Fitzpatrick came out, he was all bundled up and he had his jersey on, and I was like, oh boy, here we go. I'm saved. Chris is going to have to drink the Seagrams because there's no way, it's too cold. He's not taking his shirt off. I underestimate Ryan Fitzpatrick, Chris. So as I slam this, why don't you tell them about the spirited debate we were having with the eventual friendship with the Ravens fans in front of us?
Oh my God, I got to leave it on you to draw. The guy in front of us had typical Baltimore accent, and it's the first time I've ever heard it with my own 2 ears. There's a guy in front of us. He sounded like Stavi. He sounded like Stavros Halkias. Yo, dude, we're going to O'Neill's after O'Neill's.
Yes, he did
the Baltimore
sound like that.
accent. They pronounced the letter O as is with every word that contains the O. That's
he did
how
say
you do.
O'Neill's.
Yeah,
O. He said O'Neill's like there was OH apostrophe NEILS.
Yes.
O'Neill's.
It's the first time I've ever heard that. It was amazing.
But they were awesome because Ryan Lasel, from #sports from Rock Sports Network fame, was giving him shit the whole game. Just, I mean, he was, Chris, have you ever seen him like that?
It's wild that Ryan's a high-level executive. He's yelling at the people in front of us like Ray Davis has a huge run. He's like, that's the best 22 on the field. Best 22 on the field. He's just, I'm like,
and here's Chris, think I'm a lunatic.
I was like, Brian, how do you act in board meetings with this tone that you're giving me?
So here's what I love about it. We're giving it, they're giving it back. We had this great day together, us and the fans in front of us. And at the end, right? Like at the end, I'm hugging both of you around the shoulders. You on one hand, Ryan on the other, and I'm like, this is it. This is for all the marbles. And when Andrews drops it, I immediately jump down a row and hug the Ravens fans, and they hug me back. It was so much fun to be a part of this. The one guy was wearing an Andrews jersey, and he was devastated by the drop. He's like, I drove up at 5 o'clock this morning from Maryland for this. Oh, and I was like, brother, I love you. And he hugged me back. It was real. And there was like, in that moment, I'm like, you guys as Ravens fans get us as Bills fans. Despite all the social media antics, we get each other. We really do. Now, if we want to talk about some things, let's talk about the narrative graveyard that's left behind this fucking game, Chris. Because the media paved the way for all of this acrimony, didn't they?
Yes.
It's the media's fault. It's not ours as fans. Every single idiot behind a microphone just keeps yelling about how, well, the Bills are too small. Oh, well, the Ravens are just so big. And Dan Orlovsky's on ESPN talking about how, well, the problem is the Bills just can't possibly stop these giant, just hamburger mashers that they have in the offensive line and the running back and blah, blah. Chris, 21 yards in the first half. Do you think that every single pundit who looked at this game, taking the whole season in totality into mind, how sick do you think they felt? Watching that first half and going, oh shit, Buffalo's wrecking shop.
Dude, I made a point to pay attention to the national media on Monday, and it was the complete opposite. For anyone that watched the shows, whether it's ESPN or Fox, it was how the Ravens lost that game.
Big J, I ate a whole rotisserie chicken. I don't know why, but that makes me so happy.
They lost. The Ravens were playing from behind the whole game. They didn't lose the game. They had to fight their way back, and it was a fucking drop. And it was the discourse with the national media. So even today, Wednesday, it has been how the Ravens lost the game, not how the Bills managed to survive the second half and win the game.
And do you know what that's fueled by? An inability to just step to a microphone and go, hey, I fucked up. I'm wrong. Hey, I overestimated, or I didn't analyze enough, or I didn't take into account the fact that, hey, maybe the Bills have a backbone. Maybe they have a pulse. No. That can't be the narrative, right? Because all of the conjecture all week long was that the Bills are too small, we don't have the requisite physicality, and we would get bullied on both sides of the football. They made the Ravens out to be this Paul Bunyan-esque character. It was almost like they were describing the movie Space Jam. The Buffalo Bills were the Toon Squad, and the Ravens were the Monstars. And this was it. There was nothing we could possibly hope to do to withstand the onslaught that was coming to us. Instead, we were the aggressors for most of the football game. And it was refreshing to see. It was a giant part of the W. So think about all the national pundits who now have to go back onto the air and either eat crow and capitulate, or they have to double down on their nonsense. Like Ryan Clark and Marcellus Wiley just spiraling around each other now. It's this thing that all of these talking heads do, and it's why I can't understand how. Like, here's a perfect example. I have this screenshot. I didn't send it to you, Chris. The Joe Marino made a comment to RG3, right? Former ESPN employee RG3. Guy who fancies himself as a football analyst RG3. After he was super apologetic about it. To your point, Lamar, the Ravens lost the game. The Bills didn't win it. And then he had to come back the next day and go, after watching the film, the second time, it took me 2 spins through the film to really appreciate the Bills. And so Joe Marino made a snarky comment like, oh, it took you 2 spins to see the film? Then maybe you don't know how to watch film. And RG3 responded, you take 2 spins on Josh Allen every morning. Boo, like making like a gay joke. And in that moment, I go, you mean to tell me that our national punditry has been reduced to that? Where Joe Marino, who is the epitome of class, he's the epitome of fair conjecture and fair analysis, is trying to have a conversation, and he is more so the professional than RG3, the former ESPN employee and now widely, like regarded pundit on social media. No. Just because you work for a network doesn't make you good at this. And that's what I love about this. This game, this is The Emperor Has No Clothes. It showed a lot of people's asses. A lot of people got exposed for what they do and don't know. And also what they think they know and how they prognosticate and forecast things that don't really exist. But that one interaction rubbed me the wrong way, specifically because Joe Marino is the most professional out of all of us who do this. And at the same time, he gets treated like that by some guy just because he has a bigger platform.
That's bullshit.
It's embarrassing, honestly, for the national media. And this game left behind a graveyard of narratives. And I couldn't be happier about it.
I think a lot with continuing into this upcoming week, I've seen a lot of narratives now of, well, we want to see the Chiefs win because they're going for the three-peat. It's never been done. I think a lot of the national media are stuck on their preseason opinion that they had on the Bills and what they thought we were going to be, and they don't want any part of us to be in the Super Bowl based on their preseason narratives, like Acho from Fox Sports saying this is going to be the worst season you're ever going to have. They want to die on that hill, and they don't want us to win on Sunday.
It's hilarious. Like, I just love this. Like Roy Collins here in the comments. Bills D let the Ravens offense march down the field way too easily on the last drive. On the last drive? Sure, because it's a game by good teams who have been feeling each other out for quarters. Do you understand that the reason we were even in that position, and Roy, I'm not trying to get down on you, but I want you to hear this. We were the aggressors. Where everyone thought that we were the hunted, we were the hunter, right? We won the trenches for most of the football game, and that's a big part of the W. Our attitude, game plan, execution. Chris, what a time to be alive.
Yeah.
I love it. First of all, the Bills must have seen something on tape. Now, the Ravens are one of the most heavily penalized teams in the NFL, specifically on special teams. The Bills must have seen something on tape and something in the numbers that told them that forcing kick returns was better than giving up the 30 automatically every single time. And so, think about, I have the numbers. The Bills haven't allowed a team to return a kick more than twice since the Rams game back at the beginning of December. And they averaged less than 3 on a game for the season. The fact that the Ravens were allowed to return that many kicks is absolutely intentional. This speaks to the level that this year's coaching staff is drilling down into the finite things. Chris, they're finally doing the things the Chiefs have been doing for years. Every single advantage that we can dial into, let's get it. Let's go find that. What? RG3 got fired from ESPN, and he stutters more than a Netflix live stream. Awesome. Yes. So, you think about this. The Ravens got flagged on their final kick return of the game. Don't you think that's what they were shooting for the whole game, Chris?
Yeah, you, me, and Ryan were having a discourse in the stadium of why we kept kicking the ball into the landing zone on our kickoffs. It wasn't until
clearly intentional.
It was clear. The fourth quarter was when we started kicking it out of the back of the end zone. I guess.
Well, because the game was getting close, but then
they gave up on that.
But then the final possession with an 8-point lead, they go, "Nah, make them return it." That would seem like folly. except they got penalized, and it backed them up to the 20. I think even like the 15. There you go. It proves to you that this coaching staff is drilling into every single possible angle they can take to get an advantage, and they're using it. And we should celebrate this, right? Celebrate that rather than laugh at it and go, oh, the coaching staff, so the kicker, oh, they're all being dumb. Also, let's talk about game script. You know, I've seen a lot of people decry the fact that there wasn't more explosive passing plays. Like, oh, we know this offense can throw it on the field. Why weren't they challenging the Baltimore safeties?
Don't the Ravens give up a lot of big plays?
They do. But why would you? Why would you if you thought that what was coming to town? Chris, think about what the weather was yesterday. Guys, 2 days ago was Monday. And Monday here in Buffalo, there was a literal state of emergency because it was not only below negative temperatures, but a pretty belligerent snowfall.
Oh, do you remember what we were sitting in traffic on the way home from the game, and my phone started getting the emergency? It said life-threatening temperatures on my phone.
And so this is it. When you look at the game script for Buffalo and question why they weren't being more aggressive, I listened to Joe Brady's press conference this week, and between the journalists...
Chains out?
No. Chain in. And between the journalists not pressing him on the topic and also him not volunteering it, I have to question if the Buffalo Bills didn't build that game plan thinking that what the weather that arrived on Monday, they were like, listen, that's going to be Sunday's game. We're going to be playing this in really ugly snowstorm conditions later in the day, and it's going to be about 0 degrees. And so they built a game plan around the concept that we're going to have to be physical. We're not going to throw the ball a ton. And then when the weather didn't show up, they were like, fuck it. We practiced it all week. We're not changing now. Fuck them. Fuck this lack of weather. We're still going to go out there and win it. The Bills didn't produce a ton of yardage. I mean, they were almost doubled up by the Ravens. If anything, that should scare the shit out of everybody. Right?
Wasn't it every divisional game, the team that had the most yards lost?
Yes. Every single divisional game this weekend, the team that posted the most yards lost the game. What this game showed is that the Bills will let you take the easy yards early in drives. But as you get farther down the field, we tighten up and we either force punts or we attack the football and then just suppress you in the red zone and force field goals. And that's what happens. And then on offense, you go, wait a minute. How did you score 27 points, Chris, on 273 yards? That's absurd. You shouldn't have that many scores. Oh, wait, your defense is flipping the field.
Yeah, the Von Miller, and I don't think we got points on the wrap interception, but
no
turnovers played a role in the first half. That's why the Ravens were playing catch up the entire game, and it came down to the last possession.
Now, one of my keys to victory last week, and I hate to pat myself on the back, but I'm going to do it. Mazel tov. I essentially sat here last week and demanded that the Bills get tougher. Find a backbone. Learn how to play tough guy football, right? You're not going to get into a game with the Ravens and win with finesse. You got to go in there and be the more physical team for wide swaths of the game. And they did it. And it was in big part of how they suppressed the Ravens scoring early and staked the lead. Like, if you want to look at the offensive side of the ball, you talk about building a bully. You know, I've been laughing ever since Rex Ryan said it because this might be the first year it actually happened, Chris. When he got here, Chris, 2015, Rex Ryan was hired.
That was our first year podcasting.
It was the first year of this podcast. We hired Rex Ryan, and he got to the podium and said he was going to build a bully here in Buffalo. And then he got fired, and Sean McDermott got hired. And it took Sean another, 7 years to build a bully. And we finally did it. And you saw the fruition of that in this game. I mean, look at the offensive side of the ball. Let's start there. Torrance. Osiris Torrance had just What a fucking game from this kid. His run blocking and physicality, trademark. I love the stamp that Torrance put on this game early, and especially that play where he's pulling Cook to the goal line. He's basically like, hey, let's see if I can anchor down and get you over the hump. Chris, he would have bench pressed him into the end zone if he could.
Oh, yeah.
It was amazing to watch him just set up. And then also that play where Torrance pulls Cook to the 1 is what sets up the first Josh Allen rushing touchdown. Also, he's their worst, he's been talked about as their worst pass blocker. He's not very good. It doesn't come to him naturally. He was the best run blocker. I mean, he gave up 3 pressures in this game. It's not natural for him to be a pass protector. But he paved the way for 61 rushing yards when the team decided to run off right guard. No other position was even close. Torrance was the straw that stirred the drink in the rushing attack, simply because he laid the lumber on their defensive tackles. And even though they have 2 giant defensive tackles, he was able to move them. It's amazing. His game on Sunday fit his draft profile to a T. Now, with the uptick in play by Spencer Brown, it makes sense that the offensive line is actually at its best when they're going to try to go out there and impose on other teams. Right? Impose instead of dropping into pass protection. Spencer Brown has revitalized what I like to call dirtbag football. I like Oliver. Careful now. You're beginning to sound like Grandpa Simpson. Who the hell is he talking to? Hopefully his father.
He's talking about me. Do you not see my comment there?
No.
They closed school because they closed schools today in Western New York. I can remember walking in a foot of snow to the bus stop when I lived here, like 3rd grade. Insane that they closed schools today because it's too cold.
Chris is going to then tell us all about how he walked uphill both ways to school in Alpharetta, Georgia.
I mean, Alpharetta is wildly different. You get a speckle of snow on the ground, you go to your local Ingles, shout out Jason Hixenbaugh, or Kroger. Nothing, no milk and bread are gone. Gone at a ½ inch of snow in Georgia.
Spencer Brown plays dirtbag football, and I love it. I'm a guy who I like me some Chris Pronger. I like me some Sean Avery. I like me a player who, regardless of where my fandom lies, plays the game with an edge and plays it after the whistle. Done. Spencer Brown is giving you everything you ask for and more this season, and it's a huge reason that we won this football game. One of my favorite things in the aftermath is watching NFL analyst Brandon Thorne on Twitter. He has a tweet where he breaks down 3 different Spencer Brown plays from just the first drive, guys. Just the first guy. And it's the kind of thing that makes you sweat behind the ears a little. Like it's erotic if you like offensive line play. First of all, on the opening drive, Kyle Van Noy comes in on a pressure attempt off right tackle. He slaps down the bull rush attempt, then uses Van Noy's momentum against him and drives him to the ground and kind of slaps him down. And then while he's trying to get up, just buries him for just like a fuck you. Not even like an intrinsic reason, like, hey, it's part of the play. It's fuck you. Then Kyle Van Noy, round 2. A couple plays later, it's on the play where Shakir catches the big pass over the safeties. Van Noy comes again on a rush attempt. Brown shoves him out wide. He stops and then tries to run around Spencer Brown, which fails because all of his momentum got stopped. So now it's like me just flat-footed, just trying to run somewhere. And you watch Brown grab Van Noy and throw him from literally the right hash almost to the left hash. He chucks this grown man like a fucking rag doll. And then on Cook's run down to the 1 yard line to set up the Bills' first rushing touchdown of the game, Spencer Brown gets upfield on number 40, weak side linebacker Malik Harrison, who he outweighs by at least 60 pounds. He takes this guy from the center of the formation and just drives him back about 5 yards. And then, despite the run kind of being over, right? Like, it's over. I'm not even part of the play anymore. He slams this guy into the turf with all of his body weight and rolls over the top of him. This was a game that I wish they had Spencer Brown mic'd up for. Because you know that guy's out there talking shit, knocking helmets, just laying people out for no reason. If you're going to have a dirtbag on your football team, you want it to be a tackle. And you want him to be like Spencer Brown. When I think back to when we drafted Spencer Brown, I remember being like, Mayor McCheese, Drew, I need you to berate my ex about timely communication. Guys, Spencer Brown to this offensive line is the pulse. He is the heart of the line. Like, everyone looks at Deion Dawkins and they go, oh no, he's great. He's good for sound bites. He does this. His technique is flawless. Spencer Brown is the ugly. He brings the ugly to this offensive line that it needs to be successful. And in that way, he put all of that on display against the Ravens, and it's a huge reason we won the game. Is because we had a level of nasty that those guys were not prepared for on defense. Look at it. The Mac Hollins pancake. Mac Hollins pancakes Marlon Humphrey. Knocks him out of the game. And do you know who the first person he got up and tried to celebrate with was?
Spencer Brown.
Spencer Brown! Why? Because he is quietly the pulse of the entire offense. That dude is a roughneck. He's a throwback. He plays dirtbag football. And we've got guys like Mac Hollins who follow right in his footsteps. Remember when Keon Coleman bullied Josh Jobe in that Seahawks game into the bench? The first person there to congratulate him was, shocker, Spencer Brown. And after the game, they were walking off the field together, and he was trying to tell him, like, kid, get out there. Get out there and raise that helmet up. Show him what you did. Take some scalps. He was crazy. I love it. I love that Spencer Brown has he has embodied the toughness of this Bills offense and this Bills trench play that we've adopted over the course of the last 7-8 weeks of football. We don't worry. We are no longer Chris, do you remember the last time we played the Kansas City Chiefs in a championship game? Ryan Bates and Ike Butker were still parts of this offensive line. Spencer Brown would chew them up and spit them out.
Yes.
He is a mean son of a bitch. And if you can't get on his level, I genuinely believe that for as much as Deion Dawkins is kind of the face of the Bills offensive line, Spencer Brown is the heart and soul of it. Because you watch the way that they play and you see the aggressiveness and just the nasty. That's what Spencer Brown brings. Dude, I'm getting a Spencer Brown jersey. I haven't bought a jersey in years.
No, you're not doing that. You're an adult. I'll continue to say this. Spencer Brown has been able to turn around because he had that lull in his, third year, marred by injuries a little. I'm telling you, Cromer has meant everything to the way Spencer Brown's played this year.
What I will say is the Bills averaged 5.6 yards per carry in the first half. Derrick Henry was stuck in neutral. He had 21 yards. We dominated, and it's because we brought the physicality to them, something that everyone said couldn't be done. And then you look at Henry's lack of production. I'll tell you what, Ravens fans, very upset. In the stadium, very upset. Everyone who was there watching very upset because they kept looking, going, well, Henry's going to break one soon. Henry's going to do this. No one talked about Lamar. They just kept saying Henry's going to get his, and then he didn't. When you look down the stretch, right, the lead was our friend. Down the stretch, late third, fourth, Henry was cooling his heels on the sideline. He only got 59% of the game's snap count and only had 8 touches in the second half. Just 2 touches in the fourth quarter for a $10 million player.
I don't even recall him being on the field for the final drive.
He wasn't.
Who was it? Was it Justice?
It was Justice Hill.
Yeah, he was the only guy out there for the final drive. I mean, I don't know. I get it because you lost turnovers in the first half and you had to play your way back to a 1-score game, and then you take Derrick Henry off the field.
Spin. Henry is pretty dependent on his long runs to boost his yards per carry average. Without that big runs, Henry typically is pedestrian yards per carry stats. 100%. It's a volume thing for him. And they go, well, if we just feed him, he'll get going. Not today. Not today, baby. Not when you're trailing. He only had 2 touches in the fourth quarter, and one was a 5-yard rush, and one was a rush for no gain. It's crazy what we did. Right? In retrospect, it seems like a gross oversight to spend $10 million on a running back who you can't put in on passing downs. Chris, Ty Johnson's a better third down running back than Derrick Henry. And that's crazy to say, but it might be correct.
I forget who had this stat, but somebody, like, I might have been after the game because I was paying attention to our friends like Nate Geary, Bruce Nolan, the guys that have a lot of receipts to get to. I saw somebody tweet out about Derrick Henry's record, the Ravens record, Derrick Henry getting 85 yards of rushing, and it was like he had like 1 or 2 losses. Mm-hmm. Do you know how many yards rushing he had?
How many?
84. Suck it.
Yes. And that's what I'm talking about. So kudos to the physicality, right, of our defense early, keeping them out of the game, and also the scoreboard pressure by the offense, making him a complete non-factor down the stretch. Now, I'll say this. For all the people mad at Brady, well, in fact, I'll just talk about that later. There were, everyone mad at Joe Brady for his play calling this week. Imagine putting yourself in a Ravens fan's shoes. No designed runs for Lamar Jackson in this game. Not a single one. No designed runs for the most prolific running quarterback in the NFL, the MV3. Oh, good. He's so talented that he deserves a 3rd MVP trophy. Great. Wonderful. And yet you didn't design a single run for him? Not one? You couldn't find it. It's either poor play calling or it's an admission that Milano's play and his presence that wasn't available in the first game really changed the way that they designed the game, and they decided to scrap that entire part of their offense. Chris, Milano, flying around right there. It's sexy. I'm harder than a diamond in an ice storm thinking about the way Matt Milano played this game. Right? Not all pro Matt Milano, but the most solid in terms of his ability to disrupt, his positional versatility. They did the thing. I watched them line him up as a defensive tackle and play dime defense. The same thing we did last week against the Broncos, and it kept Lamar Jackson in the pocket because he was like, oh shit, that guy's lined up like a tackle, but I know for sure he's not coming on the rush. He's going to stand there and watch me try to take off between the tackles. So now I have to see if I can get to I can't get to the edge. All right, well now it all just it evaporated for the Ravens so fast. Milano tied for the lead in pressures on the quarterback, while also proving savvy in terms of spying at the line of scrimmage, just helping contain and corral. He broke up the 2-point conversion attempt. Milano did the work. Guys, it's almost like missing the 3 players from our front 7, despite what every shitty Ravens fan on social media wants to say. It's almost like us not having those guys in that first game made a difference, right, Chris?
Yes.
Like, oh, wait a minute. We have a Teron Johnson now. We have a Matt Milano. We don't have a Balin Spector running around here who can't find his ass with both hands. No. We have ballers. Good luck. And the defensive line, Chris. In the words, wait, hang on, no one should suffer the English accent. What did I miss? What am I missing in the comments, Chris?
I don't know. Terry White thinks Drew's Italian like I'm from Korea.
I'm Puerto Rican, Sicilian, Puerto Rican, German, and Dutch. I'm a mutt, baby. And it's the best. So, here's what I'll say. The defensive line, in the words of Joey Diaz, great googly moogly, Joe Rogan. They literally paved the way for Bill's victory. In a game where everyone was like, oh, there's too much beef on the opposing side. You can't do it. Right? Guys, first Lamar sack. Daquan Jones just bullies the center into the backfield and Lamar trips over him and just has to lay there while he gets tagged down. AJ Epinesa and Ed Oliver showed up in ways that they haven't showed up all season long. Epinesa had it between the ears. He covers an offensive lineman who declares as an eligible receiver in the red zone perfectly. And it leads to a sack because they're like, oh, this is going to be open. How the fuck did AJ Epinesa get this right? And then he gets sacked. Follows it up, right? Leads the team in solo run stops. Then you watch just the way he holds up his blocks, doesn't over pursue, and then sheds them and shuts down a running lane every opportunity he gets. It's almost like he's reached the point in his career where he understands leverage and timing when he's watching. He understands now, I can do whatever I want with this lineman. I want to watch the backfield because my job, according to Sean McDermott, is I crash inside or I set the edge and I bend it outside to keep Lamar Jackson from being able to run around. He was our second highest graded defender on the field. And he had more than double the snaps of the guy who finished him first. It's incredible that AJ Epinesa is showing out in the most important game of the season. And then Ed Oliver, a guy who is polarizing in the fan base, regularly displacing offensive linemen, which is the knock against him. The thing that everyone complains about when it comes to Ed Oliver is the fact that, well, it doesn't move people. You know, that's Daquan Jones's job. Okay. Well, he had a 20.4 pressure rate, which is the highest he's had in any game this season. Guess he saved his best for last at home, right? It's amazing to watch, like the impact of all that physicality and high-level execution. You can't get away from it. It really is the only story of the game I feel like talking about. We went out there and bullied a team that was supposed to dunk all over us. They were going to wedgie us like we were dorks in high school. They were going to shove us into a locker because they're bigger and they're goonier and they have slack jaws and they weigh X. Everyone goes, oh, that guy weighs 350 pounds. Obviously, the Bills can't block him. Fuck him. We're more aggressive. We impose our will. We're cerebral about how we impose our will. And in that way, we dominated them up and down a football field for 3.5 quarters. The Dan Orlovskis of the world had to sit there and just watch them before. Chris, my favorite possession of the game. Rashad Bateman catches a ball at the Bills' 2-yard line. You've got to watch the Bills get a 1-yard loss by Henry, a coverage sack on Lamar thanks to AJ Epinesa, and then an incomplete pass that was almost an interception off a bobble by a Ravens player. I think it was Derrick Henry. Everyone in the national media can eat my ass. I don't care about what you think about the Ravens. The Buffalo Bills were the aggressor in this game from start to finish. Chris, did you see anything? Anything different?
No. I mean, the Ravens played from behind the whole game because of those fucking turnovers. You want to call Lamar an MVP, he gets a snap over his head, and then he wants to pick the ball up and then try to be a fucking hero and puts it on the ground for Von Miller. That was I'm not a scientist with football, but I did see that was the biggest play on the field for EPA or something. It was the biggest difference or whatever. In part why the Ravens lost the game, because that set us up in I think we got a field goal off of that. I don't know. Somebody in the comments can correct me, but we got points off that Von Miller. And what was the difference in the game? 2 points?
Yep.
If we kicked a field goal on that drive, there's your difference.
Yeah.
Lamar's fault. Fuck that guy. Josh Allen's my MVP.
So the Ravens made us really earn this one. But we did. The Buffalo Bills as a franchise went out there. We bullied the Ravens on TV in front of everyone. All the pundits had to eat crow. Not that they'll say it publicly. But emotionally exhausted, you and I went back to the truck.
You beat me to the... That would...
Let's talk about this.
Talk
about it.
Hey, I'm telling you right now, I would refrain from saying whatever you're going to say. Because then you make this public information, and then somebody will find out and go...
What, come back to me for the cost of a shitty tent? Hey, guys, here's the thing that happens in Dock Slot. The same group of dickheads who park in the same spot at Dock Slot every single week, right next to Hammer's Lot, 4180 Abbott Road, they never take their fucking tent down. So we go into the game, and Chris and I are sprinting to the truck. Somehow, I beat Chris. I get there, we get into the vehicle, we're leaving, we go to leave. Now, a couple weeks ago...
You know what was great was that I was in the lot, and I came around the corner from the building around back towards the porta potties near where we park, and I got a flashback of our friend James Potter, because you just start yelling my name the same way when we were in the mud lot, and you would just yell Potter's name because he left the game early and then wandered to another tailgate and then refused to answer his phone.
I like that Oliver just said, I
lost.
can't picture any of you running. Yes, Oliver. No, I ran. And I immediately had a stitch on my side. Spin. We got a touchdown off the fumble. You're welcome.
Yeah. I would just as if Mark was in here, our legal analyst at the Rock Pile Report, he might say I'd refrain from going in any further.
No, because we're going to talk about heroes and zeros. And if I'm going to talk about zeros of the week, I've got a bunch of them. Hang on, Chris. They don't deserve a sound drop. These people leave their fucking tent up every week, and it's staked to the ground, and it bottlenecks the back end of the parking lot. Who the fuck do you think you are? So the last time it happened, I backed into their tent and broke it. Oof. I backed into it with my truck, and I snapped the legs off it. And I thought that would send the message. Hey, don't bottleneck the back half of the parking lot by being too lazy to take your piece of shit tent down. Following week, here we are, Chris and I, in the truck, trying to get out of the dock slot. Guess what happens? There's a fucking tent in the same spot, and it's an expensive one, a Buffalo Bills branded tent, whatever. We pull up, and it's there, and it's blocking the parking lot. In my truck, I can't get through. And I go, Chris, can you go move that tent? And he gets out, and he tries to move it. He comes back to the truck. He goes, it's staked down. Chris, what did I do? I'm going to let you tell it.
No, I am no longer a part of this conversation.
All right.
For legal reasons.
Bring it to me.
I don't know what happened.
Hey, guys, you want to hear destruction of personal and private property? I took that fucking tent with my bare hands. I yanked the stakes out of the ground, and I snapped the legs off the fucking tent, and I packaged it up, and I shoved it under the asshole's truck, who it was perched over. Because who do you think you are? We all show up here. We all tailgate at this lot, and yet you feel entitled to leave your shit out in everybody's way. This is what's wrong with society. There's people like you, and I don't care if you come after. You want reimbursement for the 5 tents of yours I've destroyed. I don't care. You don't have to take me to court. Come talk to me. I'll pay you. But I'll tell you what, I'll do it again. I'll do it again in a heartbeat. I regret nothing, but that guy is an asshole. Chris, what did I say when I got in the car? I was like, I snapped that thing.
I watched.
He goes, I saw it.
I watched. I saw it.
I watched you decimate that tent. Listen, you're either in or you're out. Just like the Buffalo Bills on the Ravens defense, that tent was stopping me from my ultimate goal of going home. And I'm not going to lie, it was selfish on their part. And now they understand that. At least I hope. If not, I'll come back and do it again.
I mean, traffic was a total bitch.
Yeah, it was.
Leaving that game, we left. So you, generally, if you follow us on Twitter, you know that for most games that end when the sun is out, we will go live on Twitter. And I text my wife that we were at the mouth of Doc's lot at 9:46, and I got home at 11:30. So, and then also factor in helping Drew unload the truck when we get back to his house. We were in traffic for a good hour and a half. And I said this all year, and I probably should have done it on Sunday. But I've said, I bet if we stay to the end of the game, you walk back to the truck, I walk to your house, I can beat you. It would have been close, because I think it took us an hour and a half to get home.
It did. Hang on, spin. So as long as you're not standing when ripping down a tent, you have no problem with it. Listen, I'll stay there and wait for the people. One day I'll meet them. And I'll go, hey, you know all the thousands of dollars worth of tents that you bought? Just stop leaving them up. Take them down. And don't leave them up directly in the line of traffic. You're being an irresponsible ass. This is not what the Buffalo community and tailgate community is about. Noted and appreciated Stephen A. Smith would say, sounds like a spicy take. Greenberg, wow, such a nuanced and insightful opinion. I like how Big J is just bringing out all the ESPN whataboutisms to our conversation about destroying tents.
That's why he's here. That's why we love him.
Guys, I'm going to hit you with this week's Hero and Zero. And the hero, and it's going to bother one fan in particular, head coach Sean McDermott. And the Killer Bees. I'll throw
There
them
can only
in.
be one. Don't take it personally, all right? Franchise star players are a lot like Highlanders. There can only be one.
Our coaching staff was not perfect in this game. Right? Like, it's almost impossible to be perfect at this stage because you are going up. I think Jason Dietro, that's just drunk Drew. Cut them some slack. Steve Noble, you have to have some fucking tent etiquette. Exactly. Have tent etiquette.
You're not even going to tackle the last one?
Send Drew to the border and I'll take care of those tents. Oh my God. You guys are ruthless. Our hero and zero of the week, hero being Sean McDermott and his Killer Bees. Guys, they were not perfect in this game. I'm not going to stand here and, like, you can't be perfect when you're playing other really good, really well-coached organizations. They made mistakes. It's true. Babbage not having an answer for the quarterback spyless runs Jackson was able to make. They all came on broken plays.
I don't think he had his chain out. That's the problem.
There was no
he didn't have the
designed
chains
quarterback
out.
runs in this game, but Lamar Jackson still made a ton of first down runs, usually on plays where he was attempting to pass, and then no one covered him. And he was just like, fuck it, you want to cover me? Fine, I'll just run. But we gave it to him. We gave those to him in exchange for allowing him to run away with the show. Joe Brady had a bizarre gaffe where he called a quarterback run from the 2. He called a quarterback run from the 2
Jesus.
out of shotgun. It's crazy. I tweeted immediately. I go, well, this one play has shaken my faith in everything Joe Brady has planned for tonight. It was a time when a touchdown would have sealed the game. And it almost is maybe worse when you hear what Josh had to say about it after the fact. Chris, hit us with the audio.
In the fourth quarter, 3 minutes ago, third down, you get stopped. There looked like there was a moment where you thought about laterally the ball back to James Cook. Did that go through your head?
No.
Would young Josh Allen have done that?
He would have done it, yes. It may have crossed the mind, but yeah, I didn't do it. I mean, there's a lot that goes through your mind in such a short amount of time. I felt like I was kind of being held up for 5 seconds where I looked at him and I saw him in position, knew how far he was away, also felt someone to the right with his hand kind of in the window where I would have to pitch it. And just, yeah, the good guy won over here, so...
There you go, Josh Allen, postgame press conference, BuffaloBills.com.
He's openly laughing. Like my thought is Josh is a lot like me. I don't apologize for the way that I'm wired. The wild things that I do, like Jason Detro in the comments, they're just drunk. Drew, cut them some slack. No, I'll destroy that tent every single time. Now, I don't apologize for the way that I'm wired. You can love me, hate me. I just exist, and you either accept it or you don't. And that's fine with me. And sometimes, as a favor to everybody else, I try to put it in check. As an offensive coordinator, much like my wife and friends, you have to know that after you've watched your quarterback throw a pass downfield and then run into the flat and accept it for a touchdown. Like, oh, hey, I threw a pass to my guy and I thought I left him in a compromised situation. So I'm going to run to the flat and take a lateral to the house for a touchdown. When you know that you're dealing with this guy, just an unhinged person, if your ethos of the game, as Joe Brady is, to just play clean, don't commit turnovers, don't do anything crazy, don't make the first or second or third mistake, and we probably win the game, then don't ever put Josh into a position where, I don't know, something in the moment might make him get nuts. He might turn into Michael Keaton in Batman, where he's just like, you want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. Don't give him the opportunity. Don't call a play where it's a quarterback draw, but also the running back's trailing. Don't do that, because he will throw the pitch if the defender doesn't stop him. But Chris, say it with me.
Goose fraba.
I understand that they did what they had to do. They tried to, they go, Josh, be the most aggressive version of yourself. Just don't throw the ball downfield. And he was like, well, fine, fuck it. I'll pitch it. I'll find a pitch. His itch to just make the play is never going to leave him, and it's what makes him special. You're never going to coach it out of him. And then, like, you look at, like, I don't know, Babbage just not covering the runs. This, and then here's what I love. McDermott calling timeouts on plays ahead of the opponent's play. And you're like, oh, you just let them see your defensive formation. Now they're just going to call it. They're going to call something different that takes advantage of you. Didn't this blow up in your face a couple years ago, Sean?
Yeah.
We made it out, though. Now, what I want to talk about is one fan in particular, one listener, who was texting me throughout the game, just railing on Sean McDermott. This is absolutely this collapse is Sean McDermott's fault. Guys, how did the game end? A dub, right? A big dub. Sean McDermott has proven in 2024, 2025 that he's different from any version of Sean McDermott that we've ever seen. And just a myriad of ways that he's grown from the experiences of losing with his conservatism over the years. And we have to accept that even if we don't like it, him and his crew are still imperfect. They're not perfect. I mean, for fuck's sake, they're the most effective version of anything we've seen from the Buffalo Bills in 30 years. Since the Bills, this is what I love. Chris, I have it in my notes. This is the most effective coaching staff we've had since most of us listening to this, and those of you watching live, could swear out loud indoors. Much less call for Sean McDermott's job. As a kid, I'll tell you, it was funny. I fucked up one day, and I just yelled the word fuck, and my dad kind of spun and looked at me, and I was like, he's like, what did you say? And I was like, will you say it? And he goes, yeah, and where am I when I say that? I go, well, you're usually outside working on something. He goes, exactly. Because we don't say it in the house. You only get to say that word outside. And I go, oh, okay. As a 9-year-old, you go, oh, that actually kind of makes some sense. Now, what I didn't know was it was just my father covering his ass. Because he didn't want my mom to know that I had learned the word profusely and expertly off of him. But it's hilarious that
are you just describing the section of the movie A Christmas Story?
Yes. And so in that way, if you're going to be critical, you got to be fair, right? Sean McDermott has proven this season that he's different than any other season that he's been involved in a myriad of ways, and we have to accept that even if we don't like that they're imperfect. He coached this game, and he had his players ready to play a game better than, Chris, I think he's ever had them ready to play a playoff game before.
Yeah.
They had a very imposing task in front of them. They were undersized. They don't have the requisite skill sets to match up perfectly with the Baltimore Ravens, at least in terms of, hey, we want to run the ball down your throat, and what can you do to stop it? And yet here we are in a game when they did exactly that thing, simply because they were organized, calculated, well coached. The game could have gotten away for all of you detractors, but it didn't. Could we have been more aggressive? Maybe, but we didn't have to be. We sat back and let them come to us and let them make the mistakes that ultimately undid them. And in that way, I'm not going to sit here and listen to any more Sean McDermott slander. Now, have there been games where he showed his ass? Absolutely.
Rams.
What I will say is the Ravens came back because they're a highly effective team. Great playmakers, electric quarterback, probably going to win his third MVP this year. But you don't just fall ass backwards into a win in the divisional round. You win it because you're the better team. You're better coached. You have an undefeated season at home because you are the better team every single week from a fundamental standpoint. That's Sean McDermott. So while you might not love that he doesn't have all the sexy X's and O's that some of these other highly sought after coaches do, and that Andy Reid can, yes, run circles around a lot of people, and that some of the better defensive coordinator coaches, there's only a few of them, their defenses are always very talented. Ours just shut down a team that every single pundit said we couldn't. And in that way, they deserve their flowers, right? 10 home wins doesn't happen if you're not good.
Yeah.
That's it. Now, honorable mention, 0 of the week. Got to give it to Mark Andrews. Chris, give me the F-.
You folks fell on your face. You get an F- in my book.
There's mistakes, there's egregious errors, and then there's Mark Andrews. I saw someone call back to the time Stephen A. Smith, when he was talking about Deshaun Watson, had made the statement, if someone had told me they wanted to have him arrested for playing this poorly, I'd allow it. Someone had a callback to that about Mark Andrews on Sunday. Mark Andrews had a terrible game. A lot of mental mistakes. Right? Like, and we've been there. Stephon Diggs dropping a pass against Kansas City where it was right there in his hands. Like, things that happen in big moments. And then I look at the way he handled it. Like, he has a horrible game, and then he doesn't come out and make himself available to the media. And then he doesn't show up to locker clean out. That's a problem. That's probably an issue, right?
Yeah, I got a meme on Instagram from our listener, Kyle Washington. It was like a 21-year-old girl. Who had her phone. Who was like, I'm gonna pass the phone to somebody who fucked the whole football team, and then it went to like, hey, I'm Mark Andrews, and it had the highlight of him dropping the football. You love to see it.
What I loved was our friend Mark, who we're going to talk about in a second, but he had an analogy. He goes, I took the Monday off to pack away all the tailgate equipment and just police everything up. And Mark sends me a tweet, and it's Drew and Mark Andrews shaking hands emoji, taking Mondays off. Because Mark Andrews also didn't show up to locker cleanout day. And that's a captain of the team. This is a guy who's been a stalwart, a staple. He's been the backbone of that Ravens team for years. And he doesn't show up to locker cleanout day.
Didn't a bunch of us donate to one of his charities after the drop?
And this is it. The reality is we're Bills fans. And when we see somebody getting piled on, right? The world is just raining shit down on this person. This is a city that has famously supported Scott Norwood. Like, in a scene like that, still when I watch it in Four Falls of Buffalo, it makes me cry. Everybody out there cheering for Scott Norwood and chanting, like, we want Scott. We want Scott. And finally they bring Scott out, and everyone goes fucking wild. And Scott Norwood talks about how that was like it was the lowest point of his entire life.
Yeah, it ended his career.
But the city still embraced him. We were like, listen, man, we know that you fucked up in the biggest possible moment. You're still one of us. In fact, your fuck up actually makes you more one of us.
Span in the comments, 53,000 donated to Andrew's diabetes charity.
And this is it. And so what I look at is we are, as Buffalo Bills fans, like that soldier in the story about the infantryman with the PSTD. You know, the story goes, there's an infantryman who's suffering PTSD and nobody understands it. And he's calling out for help and everyone keeps walking past him. And then another infantryman who has PTSD hears him and comes over and sees him and just immediately jumps in the hole. And the guy in the hole goes, well, what are you doing? Why did you come down here? Like, now we're both in it. And he goes, no. I've been here, but I can climb out and I can show you the way. That's, I feel like, what we as a fan base are for everybody who's ever been just shattered by something. Because we have been broken, right? Like our history, our shared history of bitter, soul-crushing disappointment and just the sadness that follows that has sharpened our recognition of that in other people. And the blue-collar nature of this community and the ability for us to recognize and stick up for our corollaries, it turns us into the outstretched hand of another person who just wants to pull that guy out of the hole. So while Mark Andrews can't face the media, There's Bills fans everywhere who are like, hey, man, I've been there. I've been a part of something really fucking embarrassing, and I feel bad for you. But here's just a little something to show you that, like, look, there's still humanity in this. It gets easier. I love it. Now, to the actual zero of the week. Baltimore journalist Jerry Coleman.
You look like death warmed over. Every time I look at you, I lose my fucking appetite.
Could I tell you, I wish you sent me that cameo that Mark sent you. Drew got a cameo from Jerry Coleman. I wish he could have been played on the show tonight.
It's so boring. Mark, he's a son of a bitch.
How boring could it be, Andy?
Fucking asshole. Funny thing about Jerry Coleman, he literally looks like death warmed over. It's almost like someone decided to do Weekend at Bernie's with Ray Romano's corpse.
I think Jerry Coleman looks, if they did a live action remake of Ice Age, he looks like Sid.
He looks like, to me, Earthworm Jim. If he decided instead of using the power suit to fight aliens, he was just going to put on a shitty wig and collect baseball cards. Like, that's it. That's what Jerry Coleman is. That chinless son of a bitch got fired years ago from mainstream media in Baltimore, and yet somehow still gets in-season presser credentials. Chris, how does this happen?
I don't know.
The Cover One guys, Joe Marino, they can't get credentials to sit in a press conference and ask questions with Sean McDermott. And yet Jerry Coleman, who doesn't work for anybody except for a standalone shitty podcast anymore, is allowed to still show up and stir up shit. Poverty franchise. That's poverty franchise shit. Shame on the Ravens. Now, in the run-up to this game, I was telling some of my friends that I was emotionally detached from the game. I was making comments about how I didn't give a shit about the outcome. I was like, hey, I'm just here for a good time. Our friend Mark, who has way too much disposable income, bought me a cameo from Jerry Coleman. He instructed him to call me Andy the entire time and talk about my back injury that's keeping me off the softball diamond. And it really got me fired up. Like, nothing has fired me up like seeing this sloth-looking, chinless bastard telling me, like, oh, hey, check into the CBD, Andy. It's a good, it'll do wonders for you. I'll kill him and Mark at the same time. Like, if I had 3 bullets and 1 gun and him and Mark in the same room, I'd shoot Jerry Coleman twice and then pistol whip Mark.
I want to throw this out here just based on the day. It is January 22nd. Drew's birthday is April 23rd. So for anyone listening and in the comments and they have $23 of disposable income, hit up Jerry Coleman in April on Cameo and send it. I'm sure you can send it to our email address, therockpilereport@gmail.com.
Here's what I love. When it was mentioned during the postgame, Sean McDermott just bristled at the concept that someone would dare slander the city of Buffalo and bring attention to themselves. Like, I love it. I love that that's where his head's at. And a part of me wonders if seeing the way that this guy operates, just his inflammatory comments became bulletin board material that turned into a pregame, hey, pump up ad for the Buffalo Bills right before the Ravens took the field. And then legitimately a whole city just booed the shit out of them and gave them the roughest ride from a crowd standpoint that they've gotten all season. I don't know. It almost feels unwise, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like, hey, don't poke the bear. Don't do that to Buffalo Bills fans. You'd think there'd be some capitulation from him. But nah. No. He's not wired like that. See, even heels like Nick Wright will still take the mask off now and again and admit, like, hey, this is kayfabe. I'm doing a bit, and I'll show you that despite all of the rhetoric I'm spewing, I actually have a pretty solid worldview and I have really salient thoughts on things, and I'm capable of critical and fair analysis. Nick Wright can do that. The fact that Jerry Coleman can't, like, that guy's a professional. He's doing a job. Jerry Coleman, I don't think he's doing a job. This is a shtick. I think it's who he is. I think, like, Chris, from what I heard, he gets zero respect inside his own fan base.
I thought you were going to say he gets zero respect inside his own family.
Probably. I mean, he's missing one now. Oh, am I not supposed to make fun of that? Dickhead. Like, he's the guy who shows up and actively tries to piss off John Harbaugh at training camp with his questions. Who would want this guy? No one. It is funny. He got fired from every major media outlet in Baltimore. No one cares about him. And now he's relegated to being a Baltimore content creator.
Just like you and me.
Just like you and me. Except with a smaller following, if that's possible. Guys, that's not saying anything. We love you guys. But holy shit. Jerry Coleman's now on our level, and it's awesome. Fuck that guy. I love that his uninformed, uncaring detritus, hoping to get 5 minutes of fame, came back to bite his team in the ass. That's Jerry Coleman, and I'm so happy that they lost this game specifically because of him. He is the biggest loser of the week. And now, Chris, if we want to close the show out, final thoughts. What do you got? As you close this out, what do you have?
I got has nothing to do with the Ravens game. I want to shout out Sweetwater. I don't know if you noticed, but right here, we got a new mixer because I'm an idiot with the last one was 10 years old. Sweetwater, if you're a content creator, use Sweetwater. I ordered a new mixer, and then they called me like 20 minutes after I ordered it, and they just wanted to talk about how I was going to use it. And then I just went in on podcasting, and me and the sales rep had a 20-minute conversation on podcasting. So that's the only thing I have. Shout out Sweetwater. If you're a creator, don't even use Amazon. Use Sweetwater, because Amazon was like, hey, we'll get you the same mixer, the same cost. We'll just get it to you 10 days later. Sweetwater gave it to me in 3 days. Shout out Sweetwater.
Guys, as we move into the show's final phase, because obviously this might be the last, like one of the last shows we get to do in this format.
Recap a game live.
Like, I don't take this for granted. I love this, and I love that you guys show up, and I love that every single week our live audience has grown. You guys showing up for this makes me feel good that what we're doing is bringing happiness to somebody else, because these are just the thoughts that are rattling around in my head every fucking day after a Bills game, and I have a platform to come just spout them.
Everyone in the comments right now relates to us based on drinking. That's what this show is. That's what this show is based on, is drinking.
Hey, listen, you can't show up and tell me. No, I'm going to move on. What I will say is we survived. Survive in advance is the name of the game. We did it. We did the thing. We're on to the AFC title game. Now, I want to bask in the glory that there's nothing fluky about it. We didn't win on happenstance. We didn't just luck into this, right? The Bills are a hard-nosed football team, and it's been a fucking problem for people. I got a Ben Solak tweet right here. The Broncos' rush defense, in the regular season, they only allowed a 33.6% success rate in the run game. They were the best in football. The Bills had a 50% success rate against them running the ball. The Ravens' rush defense. No. This is why all the pundits were putting them on a pedestal. 35.8% success rate. They were the second best. 55.6% success rate. We got better against another team who is supposed to be the best. You keep telling me that all these teams are supposed to be the most physical, and this is why the Bills can't win. And the Bills are over here going, we'll roughhouse you to death. We'll run James Cook down your throat. We'll hit you with a Ray Davis. We'll get Ty Johnson out in the flat, and also he'll steal the game with a long run at the end. Every top-tier defense that had to play the Buffalo Bills had their worst run-defending game of the year. Chris, what does that tell you?
Bills are a good football team.
We might just be the cat's ass when it comes to running the football.
I'm telling you this with a space gun to the back of your head. Wait, the Buffalo Bills are a good football team? Always have been.
Mark has been just lambasting. He gets drunk and lambastes everybody with the astronaut meme. Gun to the back of the head. Wait, the Buffalo Bills are still good? Always have been. They went through the air. Like, if you look at the playoffs in totality so far, they've beaten a team through the air with the passing game. They've won by pounding the rock and sheer physicality and will. You think about what that means for us. Like, we're one of the most dangerous teams left in the postseason. I almost feel like the pressure is more on Kansas City. They have more pressure to shut us down. We're going into their house. We're going to bring our brand of bully ball into their house, and it's on them to protect it. Chris, we're not the hunted. We're the hunter now. And Kansas City has to be the one to respond and go, hey, guys, we are tough enough to stand up to the Buffalo Bills. And then there's a conversation about legacy and what comes next, because I know that was a big part of last week's conjecture. This idea that legacy was somehow defined by this game for Josh Allen, for Lamar Jackson, you know, what a win and loss would mean for each franchise. In that way, the pressure felt massive, but most of the media has already seen fit to give Lamar Jackson a giant pass. It's almost like he didn't play the game. He was just a passenger, and the game happened, and, oh, poor Lamar Jackson. Ooh.
Well, it's his playoff record now compared to Peyton Manning's 3-5, similar everything. You know, watch the shouty shows, as Aaron Quinn calls them. Yeah. Shouty shows. They have those numbers.
It's ridiculous. Like, you just keep moving goalposts. Instead of the guy who also had 2 plays that ruined the game. Right? Like, that's also Lamar Jackson. You don't talk about him like that. The guy who poisoned the well. It's rare that Nick Wright isn't attacking the Bills or Josh Allen. But what I will say is he had a tweet this week that laid a lot of the conversation bare. And I'm looking through my bookmarks here because he really hit the nail on the head. And it's this thing when he talks about the playoff stats of Lamar Jackson. 2018, multiple turnovers. Baltimore is 3 points with 7 minutes left. They finished with a season low 17. 2019, Lamar has multiple turnovers. Baltimore has 6 points. They go into the fourth quarter, finish with a season low 12. In 2020, Lamar throws a 100-yard pick six to the Buffalo Bills, while trailing by 7, finishes with a season low 3 points. 2023, Lamar has multiple turnovers. Baltimore has 7 points with 3 minutes left in the game, finishes with a season low 10 points. 2024, Lamar has multiple turnovers for the first time all year. He points out that obviously there is a problem here. When it comes to the postseason, the guys who are at their best carry their teams to victory. And the guys who don't are the albatross or anchor for their team. Because they've been so good all year long, you trust it. You lean on it. The Ravens needed Lamar Jackson, but they've needed him for how many years, Chris? And how many years has this Lamar Jackson offense fallen on its fucking face? It's embarrassing at this point. But the national media won't talk about it like that. And the fact that Nick Wright, of all people, came out to defend this is another example of how he can sometimes take off the anti-Josh Allen mask and go, hey, look, I'm just an analyst of football. I want to talk about reality. Another year where the MVP looks painfully human, right? And here's Josh Allen going out there, walking on water like Wyatt Earp in Tombstone, just gunning down Curly Bill in front of everybody. It's amazing. I love this game. I love everything that it represents for the growth of the Buffalo Bills. It's what comes after that no one's talking about. Like, there's something Marlon Humphrey said. Now, Marlon Humphrey, long time Raven, said in the locker room after the loss. Chris?
Man, honestly, this sounds kind of just, not really a great answer, but there's only a select few people that know they're going to be here next year. There really ain't a true message like this team is done. So obviously there's a message to go, but when I look at it, some guys will be here, some guys won't. Who knows what? I know I got no more years guaranteed on this existing contract. So it's, whatever message you have, you could be you could be on the team, you could be on another team. Some guys will stay, some guys will leave. And I fall into that same bucket. So the message is, you lost, get over it.
There you go. BaltimoreRavens.com postgame press conference, Marlon Humphrey.
The Ravens had 6 All-Pro players on their roster and again couldn't make it to a Super Bowl. And in the locker room, here's Marlon Humphrey, longtime Raven, going, I might be out of here. I don't know what's going to happen. This whole thing might just fucking shatter. It's all going to blow up. The Ravens have a whopping 23 free agents coming up this offseason. That roster is going to get torn down, and that includes 7 starters. There's a bunch more like Humphrey who have no more guaranteed money. So the teardown might be even more catastrophic than we're even prognosticating sitting here today. Aged players who didn't perform, guys who are getting shipped off. This season for the Baltimore Ravens was about going for it, seizing opportunity. And the ripple effect of this loss is going to be massive because now they have to go back to the drawing board. They have to replace personnel. They have to go out there. They have to buy new players with limited cap space. And at the same time, they got to figure out, can we continue putting out the caliber of roster we're used to as the Baltimore Ravens while possibly losing their play caller to a head coaching opportunity? Todd Monken doesn't seem like he's a fit for any team right now. But now that the Jaguars just fired their GM. Chris, it's insanity that they didn't fire the GM.
Yes.
When they fired Doug Peterson. Now, maybe that job opens up. Who knows? The fallout of this loss will be sizable for the Ravens. They will feel this for years because this was a high watermark, and this was maybe a last gasp at, hey, we've got another year of MVP level performance from our quarterback. Can we use that to just throw this thing over the top? No. Couldn't. You broke against the wall once again in Buffalo. Now, you switch sides of the ball. I don't know. Let's talk about the referendum between rebuilding and redefining, like retooling. We know that the Bills had the third most dead money in the entire league this year. Over $70 million. The sense among fans was that this was a rebuilding year, right? Like, oh, well, we're going to do poorly, and that's okay because we tore the roster down and we got rid of Gabe Davis and we got rid of Stephon Diggs, and there can't possibly be success after this because we tore the thing down. And then you look at it, Chris. We go on this run. Now, the sense was among fans that we were going to have the cap space moving forward. Like, oh man, we're gonna go out there and be players in free agency. We're going to tear it down and rebuild just like we did in 2018. But that's not reality. Because this season showed you that there is a ton of value already on the roster that you have to retain. Benford's deal, like Cook, Rousseau, Benford, Bernard, Shakir. Chris, will Benford's deal cost them one of the others?
Could be.
Like, can you afford to retain a fan favorite and culture carrier like Mac Hollins? I don't know. Can you? Will he take a team-friendly deal to come back here and just be the guy who is the physical embodiment of what the Buffalo Bills should be within our wide receiver core? Then can we afford 2 multi-million-dollar linebackers? It's the reason that we let Tremaine Edmonds go, because you couldn't pay him while you had Matt Milano. Well, now what happens to Matt Milano when you have to pay Terrell Bernard? Chris, who do you prioritize?
I don't know. That's off season.
Do you have a new deal for Josh Allen? Like, could that reduce the cap figure? Maybe. What if Vaughn gets sent away? Like, there are so many things here. But we aren't in the boat that the Ravens are now. You want to know why? Because we fucking won the game. And our season is still alive. We're still out here fighting for a Super Bowl. We don't have to answer these questions yet. Right? Like, our GM is one of the best cap gymnastics in the NFL. He gets value fines, contract structure, just caveats galore. But changes are coming to us the same way they're coming to the Ravens. But we get one more week to hold this thing together. The Bills team we have here is what we are. And while some people, right, started the season looking at this like the glass half full, an unfinished product, people who looked at this iteration of the Buffalo Bills as if they were like, oh, I guess we're saddled with this team and we'll see what we have, longing for the days where it might be improved later in free agency, myself included. The reality is this 2024 roster has been everything we could have asked for. They took to the coaching. They took to the physicality. They took to the quarterback. They took to the physicality of their right tackle. They bought into the right people, the right culture carriers on the roster. Mac Hollins became the guy here. Like, I love seeing Jessica Tannis. Our backup offensive line could start for other teams. Ryan Vandermark did start a game against the Chiefs that we won. Jessica Tannis has a great point in the comments. Guys, the most fascinating angle to all this is that now that the window is still officially open, what do we do with it? I'm hoping that in the words of the immortal Jake Taylor from Major League, you go out and you win the whole fucking thing. That's what you do. You go out and you win the whole fucking thing. Guys,
I got a question.
This is crazy.
This is for Sunday. Based in the comments, should I bring over a bottle of Malort? Do you want to go full like a Brett Coleman? Every time we score, do some Malort?
I think if we're losing, when we trail, bring the Malort. I'm not scared. I have faith.
I'll go to our favorite Capooties. I'll go to Capooties because I know Capooties has them. I'll go to Capooties like this.
Jessica Tennis.
And
the Bills have great depth. I'm just looking through the comments now, guys. You guys are the best. I love that you stuck through us throughout the season and the show has grown. The viewership has grown. The fact that you guys give up time out of your night to come watch me sit here and drink beers and talk and just empty my head of all the things that I'm thinking about the Buffalo Bills. I love you guys. You're the best. You're the absolute best. I couldn't ask for anything better. Steve Noble, you know I love you. Spin, I hear you're a problem for the hashtag guys, but I'll tell you what, I like the cut of your jib. And ultimately, all of you. Joseph Fryer, I'm not scared. Famous last words. 100%, brother. I mean, listen, I'm like Leonidas. I'll go out, I'll either come back with my shield or I'll go out on it. That's it. There's a reason that I've won every single Reaper Wing challenge that exists in Buffalo. I'm willing to die on the shield. Sense of pride, baby. Now, I love this. Jason Detro, we're beating KC on Sunday. I love you, brother. And I'm so happy that I got to see you as many times as I did this season. Know that I will be saving a spot for you when we get to the parade. Yeah, the parade, because I'm calling my shot. I think we'll win this thing. I like this. How you feeling about Cooper for next year? Andrew Barber. I'll tell you what, you know how I feel about Cooper for next year? You better show up now. If Cooper wants to be here next year, you better show up right now in this game this week, or else I have no use for you. I don't need you. Guys, it's a great time to be alive if you're a Bills fan. Don't take it for granted. Cherish this. Share it. We just recorded a preview show for the Kansas City game. And
I'll have it out tomorrow.
And I revealed a picture of me when I was a child, a tiny child. And my father was giving us like championship pennants. And it's like, oh my God, this is Super Bowl era shit. I have an opportunity to recreate that photo with my sons. Make sure you check out the preview show so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. Guys, we are on the cusp of something amazing. I saw a clip today on Twitter as I end the show. Peyton Manning and the Colts had to go up against the Patriots, who they lost against a bunch in the playoffs. And it took until 2027, the year that they made the playoff run, and they inevitably went on to win a Super Bowl, where they finally got over the hump. They got their first win against the Patriots in the playoffs. And in it, they were trailing for a giant chunk of the game. And they came back late, they won it, and it was based on physicality and just the quarterback having an I don't give a fuck mentality. Guys, the Buffalo Bills are going to have to challenge. To just channel that and make that. Like, I want to send it to Reed and be like, Reed, can you show this to the locker room? He won't, but it's okay. They all have to find that. The I don't give a fuck that you're the Chiefs and you're the whatever. They need to find more Spencer Brown. The I'll spit in your face, I'm here for a fist fight mentality. And if the Buffalo Bills can adopt that, then they're going to go into Arrowhead and they're going to make a glorious, glorious mess of this. And maybe we come out Super Bowl contenders. Maybe. It's an incredible thing to be on the precipice of. I can't wait. But for tonight, we got to get the hell out of here. I like how Drew said 2027. I did say 2027 will be our year. Guys, I love this. I love all of you who have shown up tonight. But we got to get the hell out of here. I'm Drew Gear. That's Chris Kruger. The Buffalo Bills are AFC Championship bound. And this has been your Rock Pile Report.